Good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to those in Europe and good evening to our American participants. Thank you for taking your time to tune in on my sharing about my experience with utilizing Emergenetics to transform my team. My topic today is about creating team dynamism and effectiveness through WEapproach, the whole Emergenetic approach. Every year during September, we have our strategic planning meeting over a 3 days period. During the 3 days sessions, we have our strategic review for 3 years, business plan, brainstorming session, and planning for the next year's budget. Trying to get the whole of my management team to be engaged and contributing during this strategic planning meeting can be quite a challenge. And I believe that many organizations do face similar situation like we do. In order to make the meeting more interesting and interactive, every year I have to come up with different approaches and formats to facilitate the meeting. See, within my team itself, I have a very diversified personality within the whole management team. It does add value to the organization, as each team member does bring different perspectives and dimensions to the meeting table. However, as everyone is unique and have their own strengths and blind spots, tasks to get everyone to participate proactively and contribute effectively during meetings and discussion can be quite a challenge altogether. We have a very different and varied thinking preference and behavior attributes within my team. Many a time, only a handful of the more active and vocal members are really participating and even mentally present during the strategic planning meeting. These are some of the challenges that I have faced. Team members are stressed during the brainstorming sessions, especially for those who are more quiet or needed more time to vocalize their thoughts. Usually, by the end of the second day, some of them will feel that the meeting is getting tiresome due to the multiple topics and discussion involved. And there will be a few who will be bored in the course of 3 days meetings, especially when the topic is not in their immediate scope of work. And naturally, they become very disengaged in the meeting. It is a norm that during the strategic planning meeting, only the same few members will speak up more than the others. These are those who are in the third expressiveness in their behavioral spectrum. Mostly, the others will only share during their own allocated presentation time slot. I think that's very normal and where they are more natural. And during the brainstorming session, the involvement of every individual can be quite passive actually. And only those with the yellow thinking brains, they tend to monopolize the session actually because they will have a lot of ideas and they just want to contribute. And those who are more quiet will be very passive. And many a time, contribution for the team members has to be constantly solicited and in order to receive their feedback or comments. Recognizing the challenges of getting the full participation of every members, I have decided to incorporate and utilize the We Team approach to conduct and facilitate the strategic planning this year. I wanted to ensure that the 3-day session will be fruitful and interesting for everyone. Because every year, it's a challenge when I have to continue to do something different. So as usual, before I kickstart any of our strategic planning meeting, I always start with a tuning in session on the very first day. This time around, I use the tuning in session to pre-frame everyone about the importance of teamwork and communication. I have to remind everyone in the team, all the team members, about the emergenetic profiling that they have gone through last year. And I did a quick run through with them about the 7 thinking and behavior attributes of the individuals. And what I have done is that I reminded everyone of their thinking preference and also their behavior attributes. It really helps that all the team members have gone through the emergenetic session and understand the works of it. So it's so much easier for me to put my message across. I further stress on the importance of utilizing the emergenetic profiling to enable effective communication and communicate across the team so that we also can encourage good teamwork among ourselves. In order to do that, a few days before the meeting, I looked into the whole group emergenetic profile and started working on how to form the we teams. When it was time for the brainstorming session and action planning session, I divided the whole management team into 4 smaller teams of triad group accordingly. Each triad group have all 4 thinking attributes represented. Those who are analytical attributes, those with structure attributes, social and conceptual. At the same time, in each group, there is at least a tri-model or core model who can act as a translator for the rest of the group. I'm glad that within my management team, I'm able to have a good spread across that make it easier for me to form the 4 smaller we teams. Within each group, I also have to ensure that there is a behavioral diversity. First, third, second, third, and third in expressiveness, assertiveness, and flexibility. With that, I'm able to form within each team to become a we team, an effective whole emergenetic team. By using the we approach to facilitate the meeting, everyone is totally involved in the discussion, especially within their smaller we team when they go through their multiple breakout sessions. Everyone is participating actively in the brainstorming session and contributing to the planning. I've noticed that every member are given the opportunity to share their point of view and the freedom to come up with new ideas. The breakout session added some element of fun for each group as they feel more comfortable and relaxed in their own conducive setting. By working with a smaller we team, it has stimulated excitement and very open communication amongst my team members. I can hear laughter everywhere and see every team members actively involved in the smaller group discussion. This is a very vast difference from the usual serious and boring boardroom session that we used to have in the past for our strategic planning meeting. And after each breakout session, the team member has to present to the whole management team. Since we have a few breakout sessions, every member eventually have a chance to do their presentation and express themselves. Team dynamism and effectiveness can be created by using the we approach. Forming we team and having them working in smaller groups can encourage full participation of the team, especially for those who are usually quiet and reserved. That are those who are in the first third expressiveness. Knowing your team members' emergenetic profiles and understanding their attributes is important for the preparation of using the tool effectively. Having this foreknowledge, you can prepare the proper grouping to form triads of the we team. Actually, I have to spend quite a fair bit of time to look into the individual profile and also their, what are their attributes and what are their behavior preferences, because this will determine the outcomes of the effectiveness of the we team. And having this foreknowledge and preparation of this V team member within the group, it will enable you to tap on the gift and strengths of each individual member in your team. With that, you will be able to witness the full potential and the transformation within your team itself. I must say that it's very important to facilitate team involvement by using the behavior preference so that everyone can participate and contribute in the meeting, whether they are an abstract thinker or a concrete thinker. Most importantly, reframing the team. I think this is something that we all need to do and be mindful of because we need to remind everyone of their emergenetic attributes. And it will definitely help to condition and prepare them for the WEapproach session. Because I strongly believe knowing yourself and understanding others definitely helps to improve communication and build closer relationship for good teamwork. Because I always share with my team members, self-awareness enables personal discovery, and peer awareness encourages mutual understanding. Usually at the end of the 3-day meeting, I will end the session with a time of reflection. During this year's reflection time, comments such as this were shared. This is the best ever strategic planning meeting we had. Actually, this is shared by one of my manager who has a yellow thinking preference. One of the guys within the team with a blue thinking attribute said this. It has been a very exciting and fruitful sessions for me. The other commented, I felt very rejuvenated from this meeting. It's a very fruitful and enjoyable sessions, very productive and efficient time spent. And someone in the team with a red thinking preference and first, third in all the 3 behavioral attributes actually said, I'm glad that I'm able to contribute effectively in this meeting. All the comments that were shared by the team members during the reflection time really warms my heart and really encourages me that all the time that I spend trying to understand their personal profile and forming the team itself, it's really become very effective. In fact, we are able to accomplish so much more within the 3 days because of putting them into small different teams, and they are able to come up with 4 times the ideas within the same frame of period that we have for our strategic planning meeting. So in actual fact, it has been a very fruitful and effective strategic planning meeting we have this year. Through this very humbling experience of utilizing the WEapproach to conduct my strategic planning meeting this year, I strongly believe that you can create a dynamic and effective team because Emergenetics enable effective communication with positive outcome. And I think this is something that I would like to encourage everyone who wants to really have an effective team meeting, be it just a strategic plan meeting or any meeting, that if you can really utilize these tools, I think it's going to be something that you will enjoy, not only enjoy it, but able to see the transformation within your team. So with that, I end my presentation, and I hope it's helpful to everyone.
Okay, thank you very much. And of course, that was Casey from Simmons, Southeast Asia. We'll now like to open the session for some questions and answers. And of course, we've got a question from Ed. And the question from Ed is, Casey, you mentioned that putting people in we teams, and that is whole emergenetic teams, helps foster communication. So what do you think causes the one-to-ones, or rather the first thirds, to verbally communicate more? So I think the question is, what do you think causes those who prefer to be quiet to verbally communicate more? Casey?
Yeah, I guess what I've done is that because my whole management team consists of 13 team members. So in the big group, normally those who are in the first third, especially in their expressiveness or even the assertiveness, they will not be so forthcoming in sharing their ideas or in the communicating. However, what I've done is that when I divide them into smaller V teams of group of 3 only, they don't feel so threatened, and they will be able to have the opportunity because of the time frame and only just 3 of them in the V team. They are more willing to verbally communicate within 3 of them. So that really, really helps a lot. I hope that answers your question, Ed.
Well, thank you very much, Casey. And of course, Casey was just answering the question on how do you get people with a preference to be quiet to speak a little bit more. And Casey, what he did was to put them into smaller groups. Casey, we have another question for you, and this is really when you first introduce Emergenetics as an approach towards strategic meetings. What were some of the challenges that you face introducing something completely new to the organization? And also, what did you do to overcome these challenges?
Yeah, that is a good question. Actually, like I mentioned earlier, it's good that my whole management team, in fact, my whole company, last year we have gone through the emergenetic profiling, so we are able to all speak the same language. So because of that, it somehow is the key foundation to that. And then for the management team, because the fact that during the tuning in session, I start to bring up about the emergenetic profiling. I reminded them that, hey, we have done that, and we know that every one of us, the individual is very unique. We, the way that we communicate, the way we think, even the way we behave are very different. So, let's make use of the genetic profiling that we have done, and we are able to understand each other better because we have constantly within the organization, we have actually been, talking about this. I have a more of a rate thinking preference, and some of them don't really use that. They say that, oh, I'm a rate person. That's what we used to do a lot of times. When we are not so familiar with the correct term to use. So so when I do the tuning in session, I bring up the emergenetic profiling that we have done, sort of to bring everybody up to speed again and to stimulate the communication and the excitement because last year when every one of us did the emergenetic profiling, they really enjoyed very much because they get to understand themselves, they get to understand their fellow colleagues, and then most importantly, they know how to better communicate with one another. So, for me to introduce this emergenetic into the strategic planning meeting is quite an easy task because all along we have been using this and communicating about emergenetic now and then within the organization. So it really helps a lot. And some of the
Casey, and of
challenges,
course, sorry, please go on.
yeah, yeah, I was saying that some of the challenges that I face when I want to do that is that the because we have not actually utilized this emergenetic such actively. So I can see initially I talk about that and I say that I'm going to divide them into teams. Some of them were having like quite apprehensive because this is something new. But one thing good is that well, majority of them are very excited about it because it's breaking out into smaller group rather than all staying in the conference room. So with the majority kind of anticipation, excitement, somehow it really get the rest of them moving too. So that is only the minor challenges I have for just 2 or 3 person. But eventually, after the first breakout session, when they experience the effectiveness and the kind of so-called fun that they're enjoying, it's the second breakout session, it was just a breeze.
Very nice. Thank you very much, Casey, for answering that question. Of course, Casey was talking about the challenges that he potentially faced in introducing Emergenetics. I'm happy to hear that he didn't really have too much of a challenge because his team had already been through the Emergenetics profiling, and therefore introducing the whole Emergenetics approach in strategic meeting was almost a breeze. And of course, what he did was to put them into smaller groups, which then brought out the best in every person, including those with a preference to be quiet. So I think we have just about enough time for this third webinar. I'd like to say a very big thank you to Casey for sharing with us.